more pleasant day.
It's a trap!
By the power of Grayskull.
What's going on, guys? This is KRAZYKentGamer here, and today we're going to be talking about the Master of the Universe series. Now, in the last video, I talked about the fact that people were taking this series, like, you know, a bit over the top and were already mass hating it, even though that there are some good things to like about it as well. Now, let me start off by saying, though, that I'm not the biggest He-Man fan out there. As a matter of fact, the only time I was ever a fan of the character in the first place was back in 2002 when the series came on Cartoon Network and McDonald's were promoting the toys at the time.
You gotta see this. Boy, those Masters of the Universe toys really have the kids pumped up.
Now you can wrap your arms around one of these He-Man and the Masters of the Universe action figures. There's one in every McDonald's Happy Meal.
What the hell is that?
And the only 80s cheese I grew up on that came out in the late 90s on Cartoon Network was the Thundercats. So yeah, instead of being like everybody else who grew up on He-Man, I was one of the few that actually grew up on Thundercats. Or maybe I was one of the many, I don't freaking know. I mean, hell, I could barely even remember the fact that there's a Master of the Universe movies that came out in the 80s. But when I watched this series on Netflix, it surprised me in both good ways and bad ways. I'm not gonna sit here and pretend that the trailer that came out promoting it was nothing but a bunch of lies, that it made it look like He-Man was gonna be the one that's gonna be the total chat of the series. But I wasn't too disappointed with what I was given. But let me go on to say that I'm not all about lying to a fan base, especially when you know it'll piss them off. But does that truly mean that the product that we were given was that bad? No. Not really, no. I honestly think that there's more to the series than what it is, and I really think, given a chance, it can be something bigger than what it is and can make way for some decent storytelling along the line. But keep in mind, though, this is only part 1 of the series, so there may be more stuff to come out of the series, but it's a wait and see type of thing. So as I sit here and read off what I know about the series, and also a warning, this review might have spoilers, so you might want to watch the show before you watch my video. So Masters of the Universe Revelation is a continuation of the original He-Man series, I guess. The show is created and produced by Kevin Smith and has 8 episodes now streaming on Netflix, and it took me a whole day to run through that bad boy. So let's go ahead and talk about this show, and keep in mind there will be some spoilers like I said earlier, so if you haven't seen it, again, go watch it before you watch this video. So the first episode begins like any other He-Man adventure, which is Skeletor plotting to take Castle Grayskull. The sorceress calls on Prince Adam, he screams, "I have the power," and boom, he's He-Man. But unlike the other times you see He-Man fight Skeletor, this one ends with Skeletor trying to take the powers of the universe by straight up wrecking it. So, in order to save Eternia, He-Man has to use the Sword of Power to absorb the damage being done, which leads to him and Skeletor being vaporized and the Sword of Power being split into 2. So without the power of the sword and it now being split in 2, magic is starting to fade from Eternia and therefore bringing out its destruction as well as the destruction of the universe. And yes, the show is heavily focused on Teela. No! But with good reasons though. I mean, she just found out that Prince Adam, her best friend that she has known for years, was He-Man, the most powerful man in the universe, and on the same day as his death. Not only that, but everybody else that she ever loved knew about this and chose not to tell her and kept it a secret from her.
You knew, didn't you? And you never said anything.
Everybody I ever trusted since I was a child knew Adam was He-Man. I have laid my life on the line for every one of you, but you're all a pack of liars. And Adam was no different.
Imagine just how hurt she felt to find out all of this and to lose your best friend while the rest of Eternia had lost their champion in the first episode.
Boy, you must really suck.
And that's probably the best thing about this show, in my opinion, and it's the fact that there's barely any He-Man in it, but instead it focuses on everyone else in the world itself, as the magic that has created the world in the first place is slowly starting to fade from existence. I mean, don't get me wrong, we still see He-Man every once in a while, but only in flashbacks that show from Teela's memories. But in the meantime, Teela is stricken with grief and anger and becoming a mercenary while renouncing magic. Man-at-Arms is stricken from his rank and banished along with Orko and forced to live with his failure. And the Sorceress and all of Eternia suffering from the battle as a whole, with their world falling into disarray. This kind of reminds me of that Masters of the Universe comic that came out in 2015, but so much more darker. There's even some more complex character development and growth between the characters as the series goes on that I actually got more of a feel for. From Teela being hurt and isolated, from having secrets kept from her by the one she loved and trusted, Man-at-Arms becoming a disgraced warrior forced to live in disgrace from the king and his own daughter, Orko feeling even more alone and useless as the people that he once called his family have drifted apart. Even Lynn has had her sentimental moments to where she reflected back on her life and if things would have been different if she hadn't joined up with Skeletor, and therefore she could have been a lot more powerful on her own and maybe even become a master herself. Like, who would she be without Skeletor? Also, she's probably the only character I fell for, being voiced by the lovely Lena Headey of Game of Thrones fame. It's complex moments like these that really make you love these characters and to understand their pain and what they're really going through and what makes them not only build themselves from it, but to also see them overcome it all together for the sake of the ones they care about, even going as far as to sacrifice themselves for them as well. And can I just say that the animation looks fantastic. Like, the characters look more fluid and badass to where it's reminding me of the 2003 series, even working in some of the CGI in certain scenes to make this shit look even more amazing than I thought possible. I'm sorry, I'm just a sucker for good animation, and this is one of the best damn animations I have ever seen in a long time. It somehow managed to combine 80s cheese and make that shit into a 2020s animation souffle of awesomeness. It's not an anime, but it's damn close to being considered one of the best damn anime-ish to ever appear on Netflix. The fight scenes were well done, and probably my favorite moments was seeing Man-at-Arms going beast mode and taking out whole groups of enemies like it's Thursday. And even in his older age, he's still kicking ass. Maybe the universe should be more scared of him than He-Man. I'm just saying. The voice acting is top notch and actually one of, if not the best voice acting I heard in a long time. There's some depth and weight with what the characters are saying that actually make you feel for them in some moments, while in others we jump right back into a Saturday morning cartoon hybrid when it needs to be. And having Mark Hamill, aka Luke Skywalker, and the freaking Joker to play the voice of Skeletor was the icing on the damn cake.
And it's going to be all mine. Let this be our final battle.
But if we're going to be talking about voice acting, Skeletor is chopped liver compared to Scareglow, because that dude's voice will make your kids wet the bed at night if they ever see this show.
Yes, yes, your fear crying out louder.
And unsurprisingly, he's voiced by Tony Todd. You know, Candyman. Candyman.
You are not content with the stories, so I was obliged to come be my victim. Be my victim.
Even in another dimension, this guy still scares the absolute piss out of me. And then you got Sarah Michelle Gellar as Teela, then you got Susan Eisenberg, aka Wonder Woman, as the Sorceress, Kevin Michael Richardson as Beastman, and Kevin Conroy as Merman?
The Sea Leech has no time to hear your pitiful pleas for life, but I have enough time to hear you die.
Holy shit, this show is just slapping me right in my childhood right now. But yeah, it looked like everything was falling into place. The voice acting was top notch. The story was actually pretty interesting. You start to get more of a feel for the characters, and then you're just like seeing them on this journey, on this adventure of theirs, to where there's no He-Man, there's no Skeletor, there's no battle. It's just them trying to fix their world while trying to fix themselves. And I love that. I love that type of storytelling. It makes you understand the characters more, like I said, but it also makes you like enjoy their company more. Like, I know that this is supposed to be a He-Man cartoon, but it's more interesting to learn more about the world and the characters that make up that world rather than the main hero itself. And of course, the final episode in true Netflix fashion, leaving off with one of the most ball-kicking cliffhangers, was enough to rattle my brains for 2 days.
I have the power! Now I, Skeletor, am master of the universe!
Good night, everybody.
2 days. I was contemplating on what the hell just happened at the end of the episode for 2 freaking days. But the ending leaves enough to know that we definitely are getting a part 2, and that's a definite must-have for me. I hope that part 2 is definitely going to be good, and I think part 1 is a great show-off of what we have in store. That was all the good things I had about it. Now let's talk about some of the bad things. 1. Teela's character. Now, as much as I tried to defend this character and how she was feeling with everything going on, I feel like her character can be a bit unreasonable at times. Like getting mad at Adam for keeping his secret from you despite sacrificing his life to save the universe, and denouncing magic despite being told it's what's the main source of life for the planet that you live on.
You serious?
Number 2, Prince Adam's death. Again, now Adam dying once was enough to make sense because he was saving the universe, but why in the good name of crap are we doing it again? And don't get me wrong, this is probably one of the best twists at the end of any TV show to ever come out, ever, but we just went through a whole process of trying to bring him back only to kill him off again? Then what was the point of bringing him back in the first place?
What's the point?
I mean, this wouldn't be such a big deal if this wasn't really a main factor and everything, but in the show itself, when they found Adam in what I would call Eternian Valhalla, they made it clear that if he's killed again, he won't be able to come back and reap his reward from it. And now here we are seeing him getting killed by Skeletor, so does that mean He-Man is dead altogether? And if you were going to bring him back, why don't you just leave it as a cliffhanger for, I don't know, the end of part 1? Think about it for a second. They made it to Valhalla, they found Prince Adam, and then they leave it off for the rest of part 2. That way you can make everybody's excitement and burst through the roof, because now there's a possibility that we can see He-Man again for the rest of the series while we put the sword back together again. That would have been an interesting cliffhanger to end on part 1. But now you're putting it in everybody else's heads that you're trying to kill off He-Man altogether so he doesn't come back anymore. Like, what the hell are you doing, Smith? Number 3, killing off your characters in your show. If you're planning on killing off characters in a show that have had a long-standing and well-known presence for the last 40 years, be ready to deal with the backlash of it. Or in this, have a point to why they have to die, especially when you know fans will get attached to these characters and you're just going to piss them off altogether. All throughout this show, I feel like these characters were just killed off just because they're, you know, killed off. There's no point to them. They're just there, so gotta go, bye. And finally, advertising a lie. Yeah, you didn't think I would forget about this, did you? Now, at first when I heard of the backlash for this show in my first video, I thought it was more because this wasn't the He-Man show that fans grew up with, which it basically wasn't. But as it turns out, it was more along the lines that the show's runner, Kevin Smith, actually lied to the fan base about what the point of the show was. And no, I'm not talking about the tweet from all the way back in 2013 where he claims to not be a fan of He-Man because, Lord forbid, people's minds can change over time, and this tweet doesn't even show that he's lying about liking a show or being a fan in the present time. I'm talking about the tweet that he made back in May of last year when Smith went on Twitter to say, while Teela is as present as she's always been on Master of the Universe adventures, and she's played a big role, our series is literally all about He-Man. Gotcha! And yet you killed him off twice and only had him appear 30% of the entire first season. Good job, Smith. And again, don't even get me started with those trailers and posters that were made to advertise the show, where literally it was telling the truth about Smith, saying that this was going to be a He-Man centric show because we get to see He-Man's face all over them. Like, bro, that is probably like the biggest lie through advertisement I've ever seen in my life.
Lies! The filthy earth boy lies!
It doesn't really bother me as much as it bothers the fan base and everything, but you literally said that this was going to be a show that centers on He-Man. If you were going to make something completely different, then the least you could have done was tell the fan base that, because when you keep making trailers and posters and stuff that advertise the hero that everyone wants to see, but then you just kill them off later only to kill them off again by the end of the series, what did you think people were going to think? It's fine if you want to make a Masters of the Universe that barely has a He-Man in it. That's fine. More power to you on that one. But the least you could do is tell the truth about what the show is going to be about. Even if the audience won't like the idea, some will still watch the show to see if it's any good. But straight up lying to your consumers and using bullshit advertisement is only going to hurt the chances of your product winning over the fans or them ever trusting you with their favorite property ever again. Hell, it would even ruin your chances of making something else in the future, to where if this will be shown as a reason why people shouldn't trust you ever again. Especially when you're going to be making a product based off of a property as beloved and well known as He-Man. So in short, Kevin Smith, please don't do this shit ever again. Alright, well, that's all the gripe that I decided to get off the table. But as for part 1 though, I still give it a thumbs up. Whether you're a He-Man fan or not, this has something for everyone to enjoy about the series. And if you don't like the series, that's okay too. But to me, that's plenty of action, plenty of lore, there's plenty of world building, and just opening up new possibilities for the next season. I don't know how they're going to top that with the ending being what it was, and hopefully we won't be lied to about it again. So go check out Masters Revelation and let me know what you guys think about it. This got me so hyped for the next season that I'm just going to go back and watch the original 2003 series again. Anyway guys, I'm KRAZYKent and I'm out. Peace!